What was Nicola Sturgeon's biggest failure in office?
First Minister.
I think Nicola Sturgeon gave very strong leadership to Scotland during some really difficult times. She took forward a large number of policy innovations that have made Scotland a better country than we have been in the past. And I noticed that yesterday, and I suspect with the tone of today's exchanges, that there was a gracefulness in the response of Mr Sarwar, Mr Cole-Hamilton, Mr Harvey and Ms Slater about the service of Scotland's first female First Minister and the longest-serving First Minister. And I notice that that graceless tone has been jeopardised by Russell Findlay.
Russell Findlay.
John Swinney appears to have misheard my first question, or maybe he just finds it impossible to pick from Nicola Sturgeon's vast back catalogue of failure. Exactly. So let me help him, and I'll start with Scotland's once world-leading education system. A system now more interested in teaching pupils about pronouns and feelings than literacy and numeracy. She is responsible for plummeting league table placements for Scotland, and she's responsible for failing Scotland's poorest pupils. She said that she would eliminate the attainment gap, but it remains as wide as the Clyde. Will Nicola Sturgeon's Education Secretary, John Swinney, admit that they, together, have failed a generation of young people?
First Minister.
No, I will not, because it is not the case. The poverty-related attainment gap has reduced by 67% since 2009-10 under the leadership of this government, and indeed we are clearly seeing signs for the future about the performance of the education system, because we have a record low poverty-related attainment gap in primary school literacy and in S3 literacy and numeracy. And while Mr Findlay is working his way through the different aspects of the record of the government, of which I have been proud to be a member, and in which I was proud to serve as Nicola Sturgeon's Education Secretary and proud to serve as her Deputy First Minister, is there's been a 44% increase in the number of 18-year-olds from deprived backgrounds going to university in this country, and I'm proud that we've widened access to Scottish education.
Russell Findlay.
Well, there we have it, a First Minister that stands there and declares that he's proud of failure. And if there's a single word that defines Nicola Sturgeon and her politics, it is division. She pitted Scot against Scot in her obsessive attempts to break up our great country. But her fixation on gender has become just as divisive as her nationalism. The first ever female First Minister trampled on women's rights. She couldn't even bring herself to admit that a double rapist was a man. For years, the SNP government was distracted by this fringe obsession. Nicola Sturgeon focused on they, them, instead of improving public services for everyone. And she's heading for the exit, but John Swinney is sticking with her toxic agenda. Now that Nicola Sturgeon is quitting, shouldn't the SNP's gender obsession follow her out the door?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, during Nicola Sturgeon's term in office as the first female First Minister of Scotland, which I think is a moment of enormous significance for the country to have experienced that, she led a government that introduced the Domestic Abuse Act that makes psychological domestic abuse and controlling behaviour a crime. I'm proud that this government took that action to bring that legislation into this Parliament. We also took action to provide free access to free period products in public spaces. Nicola Sturgeon introduced... I don't know why they're laughing about all of that.
Let's hear the First Minister. First Minister. First Minister. Colleagues, I would remind all members of the need to abide by our standing orders. First Minister.
We also introduced legislation to ensure that there was 50% of non-executive members as members of public bodies. Nicola Sturgeon appointed the first ever gender-balanced cabinet. And one of the other things that she did that I think was particularly important is that she led the campaign against the despicable rape clause that was presided over by the Conservative government in London.
Russell Findlay.
He's scraping the barrel so much he's nicking Monica Lennon's period products policy. You know, it's because of Nicola Sturgeon that people in the real world have never felt more disconnected with this place and so disillusioned with it. And by any honest assessment, Nicola Sturgeon has failed Scotland. She divided our country, she betrayed women, broke her promises to pupils, launched a ferry with painted-on windows, raised taxes, alienated business, allowed drugs deaths to spiral to the worst in Europe, and even on her life's mission, she failed. Nicola Sturgeon tried to break up her great country, but we, the Scottish Conservatives, stopped her. Now, Nicola Sturgeon will leave amidst an ongoing police investigation into
Let's hear Mr. Findlay.
Finances. Nicola Sturgeon will leave amidst an ongoing police investigation into the SNP's finances, while John Swinney still backs her toxic politics to the hilt. Yesterday's man standing by yesterday's woman. How can he ever change Scotland for the better when he's been at the heart of the problem for 2 decades?